Hello. So, a lot of people have been trying to talk about Rufus lately on saying like he's gonna be the best tank for 2023 or or whatever. But I kind of disagree. Rufus, he's okay as a defending hero. As a defending hero, he's actually really good because some people just plain don't know how to deal with him, or they don't have the stuffed into it to deal with him. But where's my Rufus? He's probably way on the bottom, huh? Rufus, right? Rufus, right? But his issue here, right? So he's hard to kill. Like with this thing, right? He can now only be killed with physical damage. If the last attack against a hero dealt magic or pure damage, they resurrect with a portion of the health restored. So this makes him hard to kill for a lot of teams. Right, like I said, some people brought this up in my video about physical attackers, like on how they're kind of like inferior. Like, and here's the thing though, like yes, physical attackers can kill him, but a lot of times you're going to use Sebastian because a lot of times Rufus teams on defense usually have someone like Arachne or something. So if you don't have Sebastian, you're probably in for a world of hurt. And right, if you have Sebastian, there's a chance like you're going to do critical hits and do that pure damage. And right, I guess you can skip doing Sebastian's artifact weapon, but then your physical attacking team is not going to be nearly as good. So, that's a losing battle. So this makes Rufus hard to kill. For a lot of teams, if you don't know how to do it, there are hard counters like Morgan. If you have Morgan, her necromancy blocks his resurrection. Right, necromancy prevents. So whenever an enemy dies, Morgan summons their skeleton, even if they attempt to resurrect. So this hard counters Rufus. Right, there's no resurrection if Morgan's on the board. This is a lot less reliable, but you can stop him. Like this prevents Rufus from regenerating, but this can be blocked by Ode to Serenities, Purifying Sphere, etc. So this is a lot less reliable. Plus, you have to actually have Jet and stuff, who's one of the harder heroes to get generally. So I don't, like I said, so Jet's probably not going to be a thing. The old way to counter Rufus was, you could use Kane as your pet, and then just time, like if you're fighting in manual, you can time the night shards, just to make sure that Kane does the final blow. This still works. Rufus doesn't have nearly enough armor unless his armor buffs up to finish him this way. So this works as a way to finish Rufus. So there's ways to deal with him. Like I said, the issue with Rufus on the attack, though, is now you have to win the fight with Rufus. Rufus has some of the same problems as Astaroth. He doesn't really do much damage. He does a bit of damage to this ability, but it's not a lot of damage. It's pretty weak. I mean, it's a bit more than what Astaroth does, but generally speaking, like Astaroth, he doesn't contribute a lot of DPS to the team. Right, said he's tough to kill. He does, like said, he also doesn't counter Martha or anything. So that's also, like said, so you kind of, so you can't rely on it for DPS. You can't counter Martha. You can counter Iris. People talk about Iris, how he's good versus Iris. He is very good versus Iris, but Iris, right, she has not been nearly as good of a hero as I thought she would. She is good anti-tank stuff, but, she's pretty easy to counter. Like, it's just, she doesn't force, any pressure but via status effects and stuff, and it's just, generally speaking, I just don't think Iris is good enough to really justify. I don't see her near enough. I don't think she's good enough to justify using Rufus. And against everything else, he's okay versus mages, but part of the reason why you see heroes like Aurora so common on the higher end is that Aurora can add literally millions of DPS to the fights. Like, she's one of the best DPSs in the entire game, and she adds a lot of DPS. Like I said, she's also very good versus mages with Rainbow Halo. No, she's not invincible, but this gives her very good magic mitigation and also does a lot of damage to mage teams. She's very impressive to physical attacking teams, just by virtue of dodge. Like, that is, like I said, right, Rufus does have a weakness versus physical teams, like, so long as they don't do pure damage with the battle song with Sebastian. But generally speaking, Aurora is almost always going to be a much better option to attack with, and just generally overall, she's just a stronger tank. Like another tank, like I said, that I get, like I said, I think could be strong would be like Corvus in the long term. Like he's a bit squishy, he's a main tank. He's great as a secondary tank. He's far ahead in the lineup though, so you kind of have to use him with Aurora or Cleaver if you really just want to use him with DPS. But he, like I said, he has a lot of DPS available in this pure damage, so he's good. Like I said, he does damage. That's the thing. Tanks who do damage are more valuable than tanks who don't. Martha could be really annoying if you can't counter her. So Cleaver's good for that. Like Cleaver, and Luther even is good for countering. Like Luther, he jumps to the back line, can right side his basic physical tackle, knock over T-bots, and Cleaver will pull Martha to the front line and then smash her T-bots that way. So right in, Rufus does none of those things, and this is kind of the downside to Rufus. Alright, so the main argument for using Rufus is that he is good versus Iris. This is true because he's the only tank who doesn't lose to Iris. So if you go, like said, so like you have let's say you have an Iris team, like, you can, like said, Iris can't kill Rufus, usually. Well, at least she can with her, Bitey can actually kill, Rufus, but her ult will not hurt Rufus. This makes Rufus the best tank versus Iris, and that's the main argument. I don't even think we saw Iris' ult there, to be honest, but, right, like I said, you can eventually win. It's grindy, it's slow, but you can eventually get a win here. Maybe. Right, like I said, you have to, right, you said, Martha gets to do a lot of healing, and Aurora tanks, is pretty good as a tank on her own, especially versus mages, or just really just against anything that's not pure damage. Right, but even then, look at all the damage Aurora did. Right, so Iris says, so she must have got her ult off. We went through that. I sped that up just because we're gonna do a few of these fights, right? So that's where you said, it's like, that's like an example against Iris, where Rufus got to do better than probably any other tank, because Iris, for most tanks, Iris will kill them with her ult, especially at high end. Like, if you run this with Aurora, you probably lose Aurora to Iris's ult. Right there, yep. And boom. And Aurora's, but here's the thing though, Aurora is just a good tank, and she's winning with Rainbow Halo. Like, Rainbow Halo plus Arachne. So that's, like I said, that's the kind of situation where Rufus is better as an attacker. You still, though, Aurora did a whole lot of DPS, right? And that's the one thing you lose. But if you want to go, like I said, but again, a lot of situations, though, you're going to do worse with Rufus against most lines. So let's say against, like, a Kark team, right? So let's just roll this fast. We're just going to do these fast, because I just... And we're just gonna... Okay, Kark's dead. So Celeste... And Martha's doing a lot of healing. Yes, Rufus can kill Martha's Teapot with his basic physical attack. And remember, this is twins, so you're actually... Twins can kind of push the team back so you can actually get up there with your basic physical attack. This is kind of like a best case scenario for Rufus, is the twins. Like, trying to use Rufus in other teams, I think you're going to find it a lot more disappointing. But you just time out. Like, it just does not do near enough damage. Like, Rufus here doing... almost no damage. You pretty much had the twins do all the damage. They couldn't actually win. Aurora doing 3 million on defense. Right, so if you replace Rufus Aurora, though, this team is a buy. Like, there's few teams are easier in the game to beat with Trinity Twins and Kark. Kark just gets rolled by this, and this is the difference between having a bunch of dodge buffs and, like I said, like plus Aurora is able to spam a whole lot of DPS, and she tops DPS here. Right, and that's kind of like the situation. And you can do Rufus, like, physical attacking team stuff. Like, and generally speaking, Aurora is going to be better in most of those situations, too. Like, the one exception is versus Iris. But even then, like, so if you want to beat Iris, though, you could totally just use other options. Is, one, like I said, you can... Right, what I usually do versus Iris, like, especially manual, you can even switch her to, like, Oliver or something. Give her a bit more... stuff, like, because we used Kane last time, which is better versus Teapot, but, like, you can still, like I said, all those fights were full auto. You can still make this work. And there you go. Easy win if you switch it to manual mode and switch Oliver here, like I said. So that's one I put Oliver on her instead of Kane and then switch to manual. You still gotta win. Like, and this is, right, Rufus, yes, he's better versus Iris, but like that's kind of the only time I'd rather use him on attack. And even then, I could, like I said, I just don't think I haven't invested in Rufus. Like, he's great as a defending team. He's great on defense because it's hard to get a win if you don't know how to kill him and if you don't have the abilities to kill him. But trying to say that Rufus is the top tank, I think is very misguided. I mean, he's a very good hero. I do recommend having him for your defending teams, but he should not be a top priority at this time. This may change in the future, but at the moment, he has some of the same problems as Astaroth, though he's much better than Astaroth. I mean, if you're using Astaroth, Rufus is an upgrade, pure and simple. Go ahead. If you're still using Astaroth, Rufus better all the way. Anyway, hope you guys found this video informative. Thank you for watching.